Okay, so just trying something new here. Thinking about starting to make some more YouTube videos. This is the first one. Let me know how it is. Over the last few months, I've had a lot of like little ideas that I just kind of wanted to film and make videos for. They're all very different. I'm not really sticking to one style, kind of going all over the place, just making a lot of stuff that I think would be fun to make. And I've been thinking about it for a while, but then now that we are in quarantine, I have some more free time. I don't really have any other big projects that I'm working on, so I figured this would be the best time to start making some stuff. So now that everyone has all this free time on their hands, a lot of more people have been binging stuff on streaming. So to start out, I wanted to talk about some of my favorite TV shows. A lot of these you've probably already heard of, or they've been recommended to you before, but I'm still gonna go over all my favorites because most likely you haven't seen all of them. So I'm gonna go through it by streaming service. Probably don't have every streaming service. What I'd recommend is just getting one or two at a time. That way you're really only paying, $10 at a time or so. I obviously haven't seen every good TV show out there, but I have seen, like I said, I have seen a good bit. I wanted to just give you some of my favorite recommendations during this time of quarantine or after quarantine. Whenever you're watching this. Prime is kind of just like a little bonus thing. My family just uses it for the shipping, really. And when you find a show or a movie on there, it's kind of like a little nice bonus. The first show I'm going to recommend is Mr. Robot. They just came out with season 4 of it, and it is not yet on Prime, but the other 3 seasons are. This is an amazing show. The first season especially is super good. Really let you kind of get into the world of a hacker. If you watch this and you don't want to be a hacker, then second show that I'm going to recommend, and that is Fleabag. This show is probably one of my favorite shows that I saw last year. It hit me in the feels so hard and had me thinking about it for days after. It's only 2 seasons long. Each episode is like 20 minutes and there's 10 episodes, so it's 6-ish hours long for the whole show. The first season's pretty good, but the second season is amazing and it won tons of Emmys, so I'm not the only one saying this. It's just about this woman who's kind of a failure at life, and it's just a great comedy. My third and final recommendation for Amazon is The Boys. It's only 7 episodes and there's only 1 season out right now, so another really short one. This show takes place in a world where superheroes exist, but they're not always the most moral, perfect superheroes like we see in Marvel movies. And the premise is that one day a kid is just walking with his girlfriend when a superhero accidentally kills her. It had some really good twists and turns in it. So yeah, I really like this one. So I haven't watched a lot of the shows on HBO now. I'm sure there's a lot of great ones out there, but I'm still going through them. So for now, I'm just going to tell you the ones that I have seen. First, I have to say Game of Thrones. Yeah, the last 2 seasons kind of suck, but the 6 seasons before that are amazing. Like, the most addicted I've probably ever been to a show. When I first watched it, I think I watched 4 or 5 episodes a day, and it's not really fair to compare a show like Fleabag or The Boys that are only 6 or 7 hours of content and say, oh yeah, those are great, because they don't have any like really bad episodes in them, and then say, oh, Game of Thrones had 50 good hours of television, but then they failed in the last 15-20 hours, so it's just not worth watching at all. There's still a few good episodes in those last couple seasons, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that just wasn't that great. It's definitely worth a watch, even if you just watch up till season 6 and then quit. But yeah, you probably heard way too much about Game of Thrones, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Second one is another really popular HBO one, Westworld. Very, very convoluted. This is something that you really have to binge. I think so many twists in this show and very complex plot, but a really good plot, and just a really good world they built. Definitely worth the watch. HBO show to watch if you just want something really quick is Chernobyl. This was a miniseries. It only has 5 episodes, so it's just like a quick 5-hour show. Really good little miniseries about the Chernobyl disaster. If you like crime dramas, True Detective is probably the best one I've ever seen. It's very dark, very gritty, so much suspense and tension in it. It's just really, really good. Another show that I really liked on HBO is Big Little Lies. This show has an amazing cast and got tons of A-list actors on it, and originally I think it was only supposed to go for 1 season, so the first season is definitely better than the second one. But yeah, there's just 2 seasons of it. The show starts out with someone getting murdered at an elementary school fundraiser, and then takes you back a few weeks and kind of leads up to that, so it's kind of like a mystery in reverse. Throughout the whole show you're trying to figure out who committed the murder, and I really liked that setup for the show, and it made it really interesting to watch. The last show I watched on HBO Now was Watchmen. This was a sequel to the comic book / movie Watchmen, so you really have to watch or read those before you watch the show, but if you do, this show is amazing. One of the best shows I've seen in a long time. Moving on to Hulu, I'm going to start off with their big original show, Handmaid's Tale. It's a dystopian future where this ultra alt-right cult kind of takes over America, and I really just like the world they built. It feels pretty real for how crazy it is. So yeah, this is like a very dark, heavy one to watch, but it's really good. Two older shows that are on Hulu. The first one is Prison Break. This one, the first season is amazing. I think it kind of slowly goes downhill from there, each season getting a little worse, but the first season is really, really good. Another one was just super popular back in the day, it's only got one season, is Firefly. The way I always explain the plot, it's kind of like if the rebels in Star Wars lost and Han Solo just kind of left with a few random people and they just kind of started doing little missions all around space. There's a few really good comedies on Hulu. Pretty good short one to watch is Atlanta. It's written and stars Donald Glover, and it's just kind of a nice little quirky comedy show. Another good one to watch is Rick and Morty. It does a great job of combining comedy with some really, really interesting plots. Always Sunny in Philadelphia is probably one of my favorite comedies of all time, and definitely the most seasons of any show on this list. For some reason Google says it has 13, but yes, it has 14. It starts out a little rough, but it gets going pretty quick. I've watched it twice now, and it is a very, very funny show. Probably my favorite comedy of all time, though, is Nathan For You. This show has made me laugh more than any other show has ever made me laugh. And I've seen every episode multiple times. It's a show that I think everyone would love. The setup for it is Nathan is the only character on the show, and he goes around claiming to be making a TV show to help small businesses, when in reality he's coming up with these kind of crazy solutions that like are just plausible enough to maybe sound real. He makes pretty much every situation he's in super awkward, and it's just hilarious to watch. I know a lot of people really aren't into anime, and I haven't watched a ton of it either, but if you do watch one anime, I would highly recommend watching Death Note. Death Note is so well written. If you are not sure at all about anime, like at least watch Death Note. The setup is that this kid finds a notebook that he figures out if he writes a person's name in it, they will die. But most of the show is like very rooted in like real solutions, and it mostly revolves around this cop that is trying to stop him, and it's kind of this chess game between this super intelligent cop and this super intelligent kid who's killing people with his notebook. Okay, moving on to the big boy. You'll never run out of content having Netflix. It just has so much good stuff on it. I kind of broke it up into little sections. As you probably heard by now, Tiger King just came out recently. Really, really good show. Really good like true crime documentary, which I really enjoy. If you've seen it and you like it, I would recommend two others I would recommend watching. Making a Murder is another really popular one you might have already seen. But if you like that rural town kind of crime, this is another good one. The other one I'd recommend is Wild Wild Country. If you like the craziness of Tiger King, this is just crazy. It's about a cult that kind of tried to take over a town up in Washington, and it is just really interesting to watch. If you're into superhero stuff, and all the ones I've seen, the first season was good, and then after that they weren't that good. Really, really liked Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and The Punisher. Daredevil is probably the best of those three. Most of them are much more real world than Marvel, which I really enjoy. Most of them are a little bit more gritty. They're all really fun shows to watch. For the comedies on Netflix, you have The Office. You have Parks and Rec. Another one I really love that I think just got on Netflix is Community. They had a bunch of trouble after season 3 though, with like the writers and then later the cast and stuff kind of leaving, and I'd probably just watch till season 3 and then kind of call it. Another great one is Arrested Development. This is some of the smartest comedy. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. The first season of this was like super funny. I thought a lot of the jokes from the first season play off the fact that she has been in a bunker for her whole life, so she's not really sure how the world works. Once she figures out how the world works, it's kind of hard to keep going on that gag. The last one I'm going to recommend is IT Crowd. This is kind of a cult classic that I don't think a ton of people have seen, but everyone who's seen it really likes it, and I think it's really, really good. If I remember right, there's only like 24 episodes in the whole show, so it's a relatively small show. I recommend a few older shows that if you haven't seen might be worth watching. Breaking Bad is a classic. I don't think I need to explain much about it, but if you haven't seen it, definitely worth a watch. And then Sherlock, another one that's not a ton of episodes on, but it kind of, I think, could appeal to everyone. Really well done. If you just want something like Chernobyl, where it's just a quick few episode mini-series about a true event, When They See Us was really good. I think it came out last year as well. True crime story about some kids who were falsely accused in New York, and really, really well done. Two really good sci-fi mind-bending shows that I like are Dark. This one is probably the most confusing show I've ever seen. It's also in German. It's just about time travel and stuff, and it's pretty crazy. Black Mirror is another one of my favorite shows of all time. Each episode is more like a movie. Nothing connects together, so you can kind of just watch them out of order however you want. Not every episode is amazing, but the ones that are incredible. Okay, last few shows. So these are kind of crime related shows. A little bit of an older one that I have on here is House of Cards. I think it was Netflix's first original maybe, but it's still such a well done show. I never saw like the last season after Kevin Spacey stuff happened, and I think that one's supposed to be really bad, and so I don't know if I'd watch that. But if you want something like slower and pretty paced out, Mindhunter is really good. Especially the last season that came out was super good, and it's based on real events, and the premise is these FBI agents going around and interviewing serial killers to figure out their process and how they could maybe catch future serial killers. One of my favorite shows is Narcos. It is about the life of Pablo Escobar, one of the most famous drug lords. Kind of jumps back between focusing on Pablo Escobar and the DEA agents who are trying to catch him. Some of the stuff seems way too crazy to have actually happened, but then they put in actual news footage of it happening, and it's just going off of that. Narcos Mexico is kind of a spin-off, but Narcos Mexico focuses on the creation of the Mexico cartel, and another really, really interesting show. And a lot of this stuff is, again, just so crazy to me that it happened. Last show, one of my favorite shows that is still being made right now is Ozark. They just came out with season 3, so we are in the middle of that right now, and it is just super good. Kind of like Breaking Bad in that it's this normal family thrust into the crime world. Every episode, it seems like they solve one problem only to come up with 2 others. It just does a really good job of setting the stakes, and it's just really, really fun to watch. Okay, I got through all of those. There's so many shows that I just mentioned that you should be able to binge for like a few years if you haven't seen any of those. Hopefully this helped and maybe gave you a few ideas of something to watch. I'm going to be trying to put out a video at least once a week. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more. I don't think much of it will be about TV shows. Like I said, it's probably going to be just a lot of different random stuff. But this just felt like something good that I could start out on, especially since everyone is binging a lot more stuff. And I feel like I've probably binged more stuff than most people have, which isn't something to be proud of, I know. So yeah, subscribe.